Ouch! Zarin yelped, jerking back so hard he nearly headbutted the bulkhead. His armored hand flew to his neck, rubbing the spot where Silrea's teeth had just sunk in with surprising precision. Was that a kiss or an assassination attempt? Because my med scanner's confused. The purple-skinned woman didn't even blink. Her silver hair shimmered under the corridor lights as she tilted her head, all innocent curiosity. Though the smirk tugging her glossy lips said otherwise. It was a greeting, human. On Valith, we bite those we like. Gently. She paused, her gaze darting to his neck as if inspecting her handiwork. Mostly gently, right? And I suppose your version of a handshake involves dislocating someone's shoulder? Zarin muttered. They were alone in the narrow curve of the Starship Service corridor, an unintentional hideaway after the two of them had been accidentally locked out of the main deck. The others were probably still in the briefing room, blissfully unaware that a Valith diplomat and a Terran security officer were currently violating at least 7 sections of the interspecies etiquette manual. Silrea leaned in, lowering her voice so it slithered directly into his ear. If you think that was biting, human, you'd never survive an actual courtship. Courtship? His tone cracked like a rookie's first flight. Look, I'm flattered. But you might want to know, Terrans don't usually start a romance by drawing blood. Her pupils dilated, amused. Oh, I do know. That's why it's fun. He was suddenly aware of how close she stood, her leather-like emerald bodysuit clinging to her in ways that made his brain short-circuit. It wasn't like he hadn't seen aliens before. This was the galaxy's busiest diplomatic vessel. After all, but Silrea was different. Every movement she made seemed calculated to unnerve him. Or maybe just him specifically. Why me? He asked before he could stop himself. You could have half the officers in this ship eating out of your hand. Or, neck. She shrugged, her high, pointed ears twitching like they just picked up some delicious secret. Because you don't fawn. You flinch, you glare, you complain. I like the ones who think they can tell me, no. That's not a kink, that's a threat, Zarin said, though the corner of his mouth betrayed a smirk. And you have way too much fun watching me squirm. She stepped even closer, so close he could smell her perfume, spicy, like starfruit and something faintly metallic. Squirming is a very underrated form of foreplay, human. He froze. I am 90% sure you're joking. 10% uncertainty keeps things interesting. She reached up, tracing his jaw with a fingertip tipped in black lacquer, and his pulse betrayed him by jumping under her touch. Zarin cleared his throat, trying to recover some dignity. So, that bite, did it have meaning? Or am I now enrolled in some alien dental study? Her lips curved slow and wicked. Meaning? Let's just say, you'll find out in about 8 hours, when the effects kick in. The effects. His voice cracked again, and she laughed, a throaty, teasing sound that made the hair on his arms rise. You humans never read the Valith chapters in the interspecies manual, do you? She said, starting to walk away down the corridor. Oh well, it'll be more fun to watch you figure it out. He stared after her, torn between chasing her down and running in the opposite direction. Either way, his neck still tingled where she'd bitten him. And for the first time since the war ended, Zarin had the very distinct, and slightly terrifying, feeling that peace was about to get much more complicated. Zarin didn't sleep that night, partly because Silrea's words kept looping in his head like an unskippable hollow ad, and partly because every time he closed his eyes, he imagined exactly what effects could mean when it came to a Valith bite. None of them were comforting. Most of them were embarrassingly specific. By the 3rd hour of staring at his cabin ceiling, he'd convinced himself it was probably harmless. Maybe some harmless alien pheromone prank. But by the 6th hour, something started to feel different. His neck was warm. Not I need a cool pack warm, more like her warm. A steady, low hum of heat radiated out from the bite mark, down his shoulder, and through his chest like someone had poured liquid electricity into his veins. Okay, that's new, he muttered, rolling over. His heart was pounding just from lying there. His breathing felt off. Not bad, just aware. And then came the kicker. The moment he thought about her, it was like someone had turned the sensation dial from curious to uncomfortably exciting. Oh no. Nope. Nope. He sat up, scrubbing his face with his hands. This is bad. This is so bad. The door chime pinged. Of course she'd show up now. When it slid open, Silrea leaned against the frame, looking like she'd stepped out of a smugness catalog. Her bodysuit gleamed under the corridor lights, that same sly smirk curling her lips. "Well?" she purred. "Anything unusual?" Zarin kept his poker face for a solid 2 seconds before cracking. "What did you do to me?" She glided in without asking, because of course she did, and perched on the edge of his bed like she owned it. "Relax. It's just a little attunement." "That sounds horribly ominous." She tilted her head. "On Valith, when we're interested in someone, we attune to their biosignature. It heightens awareness, emotion, desire, and..." She paused for effect. "It's mutual." Zarin blinked. "Wait, mutual? As in, you're feeling this too?" Her smirk faltered just enough to let him see the truth. "MMH. Maybe." He groaned, running a hand over his face. "So now I'm what? Some kind of walking antenna for your hormones?" She laughed. "Oh, don't flatter yourself. It's not just hormones. It's connection. I feel what you feel what I feel." Very educational. His brain scrambled for something professional to say, but unfortunately his body was already betraying him, because being this close to her while knowing she could feel his reactions was like trying not to laugh during a funeral. "Stop thinking about..." She started, then blinked and grinned, her voice dropping to a sultry whisper. "Oh, that's interesting. I told you to stop." He shoved up from the bed, pacing the room. "This is exactly why humans have boundaries. We don't just plug into each other's, whatever this is." "Boundaries are adorable," she said, lying back on his bed like it was hers. "But think of the possibilities. Coordinated reflexes, shared senses, perfect communication during combat." The pause before combat was deliberate. Too deliberate. He pointed an accusing finger at her. "You are enjoying this way too much." She rolled onto her side, propping her head on her hand. "You'll enjoy it too, once you stop pretending you don't want to test it." Zarin's pulse spiked. She definitely felt it, because her smile sharpened. "This is going to be hell," he muttered. "Hell can be fun," she said, "especially when we're both stuck in it together." The comm buzzed. "Security Officer Zarin and Diplomat Silrea, report to Shuttle Bay 2 immediately." The captain's voice snapped. Silrea rose in one graceful motion, brushing past him on her way to the door. "Looks like our first mission together. Let's see how well we sync." Zarin followed, trying not to notice that every step she took sent another ripple of heat through that damn bite mark. And somewhere in the back of his mind, he already knew, if the enemy didn't kill him, she just might. The shuttle bay was chaos. Not the organized, military precision chaos Zarin was used to, but the kind of chaos where everyone seemed to be yelling at once. 3 shuttles were prepped at different stages, and someone had spilled a crate of nanodrones that were now crawling across the deck like curious metallic ants. And into that chaos stepped Silrea, like a queen strolling into a tavern brawl, her expression the perfect mix of mild boredom and predatory amusement. Zarin trailed a step behind, already regretting every life choice that had brought him here. The bite's effects were in full swing now, heat pulsing like a second heartbeat, every tiny change in her body language bleeding into his awareness. When she shifted her weight, he felt it, like a phantom movement in his own muscles. When she glanced sideways, he knew exactly what she was focusing on before his eyes followed. It was disorienting and, annoyingly, intoxicating. The captain, a gruff Teorite named Marvox, stomped toward them. "You two," intel says a merchant vessel drifted into the asteroid field on the far side of Gathis Prime. "No comms, no transponder. You're to investigate." "Got it," Zarin said, straightening to look appropriately competent, only to wince when Silrea brushed against his side. Purely accidental, of course, except it wasn't. She glanced up at him with feigned innocence. "You felt that, didn't you?" Her expression said it without words. He grit his teeth and moved toward the shuttle, muttering, "You're going to get me court-martialed." Inside, the cockpit smelled faintly of ozone and oil. Zarin strapped in, running through pre-flight checks. Silrea slid into the seat beside him, her bodysuit creaking faintly as she crossed one long leg over the other. "You're tense," she murmured. "I can feel it." That's because we're flying into an asteroid field. Not because... Her fingers brushed his armrest, sending a jolt of sensation up his spine. Oh, for stars' sake, he groaned. The shuttle lifted off, humming beneath them. The moment they cleared the bay, Silraya leaned over, her voice low. You know, if we fine-tune the attunement, we could anticipate each other's movements perfectly. Pilots pay for tech that does what we're doing right now. Great, he said, eyes on the console. We can sell it to the highest bidder. After I've regained control of my nervous system. She grinned, clearly enjoying herself, and for the next few minutes, they flew in tense, charged silence. The asteroid field loomed ahead, jagged rocks tumbling lazily through the void. The derelict ship came into view, a bulky freighter with scorch marks along its hull. Looks abandoned, Zarin said. Or bait, Silraya replied, unbuckling. Let's find out. They docked with a soft thud, the airlock sealing with a hiss. Inside, the freighter's corridors were dark, lit only by emergency strips along the floor. The air smelled faintly of burnt wiring and something metallic. Blood. Maybe. Zarin drew his sidearm, sweeping the hall. Stay close. Do you feel that? She asked. Yes. I feel you breathing down my neck. No. That. She gestured ahead, and before he could ask, a shadow flickered across the corridor. They moved in sync without even thinking him stepping left. Her right, weapons raised. The attunement made it effortless, like they'd trained together for years. The shadow resolved into a humanoid figure, limping. A scavenger, gaunt and desperate, wielding a jagged plasma cutter. Easy, Zarin called, keeping his voice calm. We're not here to hurt you. The scavenger lunged anyway. They reacted instantly, Zarin sidestepping as Silraya swept low, her boot catching the attacker's ankle. He toppled, and Zarin disarmed him in one fluid motion. The man scrambled back, muttering about the others and feeding the ship. Zarin's brows knit. What others? That was when the skittering started. From the far end of the corridor, small, spidery machines poured into view, their metal legs clacking against the deck. Their red eyes locked on the three of them. Oh good, Silraya said dryly. You've brought me somewhere with killer bugs. How romantic. Remind me to never let you pick the date location. Zarin shot back, opening fire. The skitterbots surged forward, and the fight was chaos, except it wasn't. Every time he moved, she was already covering his blind spot. Every time she ducked, he was already shifting fire to protect her. The attunement turned the fight into a deadly dance. And, disturbingly, he couldn't tell if his pulse was pounding from the combat, or from the way she smiled every time they moved together perfectly. When the last bot fell, sparking, they stood panting in the sudden silence. You know, she said, brushing dust from her shoulder, you're almost attractive when you're not overthinking. Almost. She smirked. Don't get cocky. We still have to get out of here alive. As they made their way back to the shuttle, Zarin found himself glancing at her more than he should have. The connection between them wasn't just some alien trick anymore. It was starting to feel dangerous. Not because it could get them killed, but because he wasn't sure he wanted it to stop. By the time they made it back to the shuttle, Zarin's nerves were frayed, his armor was scratched, and that damn bite mark on his neck felt like it was burning a slow, steady brand into his skin. Silraya didn't look much better, stray strands of silver hair clung to her flushed face, and there was a small tear in her bodysuit at the thigh that he absolutely wasn't going to stare at. The docking clamps disengaged, and the shuttle peeled away from the freighter, weaving back into the asteroid field. Zarin focused on piloting, trying to keep his mind on anything other than the woman sitting way too close beside him. You're thinking about it, she said, her voice low and smug. I'm thinking about getting us home alive, he shot back. MMH. No, you're not. She leaned closer, her shoulder brushing his. You're thinking about the attunement. How much stronger it feels now. He gritted his teeth. You're not wrong. And it's distracting. That's the point, she said. In Valeth courtship, distraction means vulnerability. Vulnerability means trust. And trust, she let the word linger like a drop of honey, means we can let go. Before he could respond, 3 large blips lit up the scanner. Pirate interceptors. Fantastic, Zarin muttered, flipping switches. Buckle in. The interceptors closed fast, weapons hot. Zarin pulled hard on the controls, weaving through the asteroid belt. Silrea's hand braced on his shoulder, and instantly he could feel her instincts flooding into him. His reactions sharpened, his aim steadied, his awareness expanded. Bank left, now, she ordered, and without thinking, he obeyed. A pirate's plasma bolt scorched past where they'd been a heartbeat earlier. The next few minutes blurred into pure chaos. Every movement, every shot, every dodge, they were perfectly in sync, like their bodies were reading the same script. Zarin flew them dangerously close to an asteroid surface. Silrea fired through a gap barely wider than the shuttle's nose. One pirate ship exploded. Then the second. The third peeled off, engines screaming. Silence returned, broken only by their breathing. Zarin leaned back, adrenaline still buzzing. We actually pulled that off. Silrea smirked. Told you attunement was useful. He glanced over and froze. Her pupils were wide, her lips parted slightly. The heat from the bite was now a steady thrum in his whole body, and from the way she shifted closer, she was feeling it too. That's not just adrenaline, is it? He asked. No, she admitted, her voice husky. It's the final stage. The connection peaks after shared danger. And once it peaks, she trailed off, leaning in so close he could feel her breath against his jaw. It doesn't fade easily. He swallowed hard. And what happens if we don't want it to fade? Her smile was slow and dangerous. Then we stop pretending it's only about combat. For a moment, neither of them moved, just sitting there in the cockpit, the stars drifting lazily outside the viewport. Both of them caught in that same electric pull. Then the comm crackled. Shuttle 3, report your status. The captain barked. Zarin tore his gaze away, fumbling for the comm switch. Mission accomplished. Returning to base. As he set the course, Silrea leaned back in her seat, but not before brushing her hand, deliberately, over his. The burn from the bite flared again, stronger than ever, and he knew, without her having to say a word, that whatever this was, it wasn't over. Not by a long shot. And maybe, just maybe, he didn't want it to be. If you've been enjoying this blend of human stubbornness, alien mischief, and a healthy dose of are they or aren't they tension, stick around, because this is only the beginning of Zarin and Silrea's very complicated, very dangerous, and very inappropriate partnership.